Some gas stations aren't just creepy because they're remote or rundown. Sometimes it's what happened there, or who still lingers behind the counter. The stories you're about to hear aren't just urban legends. These are stories about people who stopped for gas and almost didn't make it back. Back in 2016, I worked the night shift at a rundown gas station on the edge of a dying town in Missouri. The kind of place people forget exists, where even the streetlights flicker like they're trying to quit. I was desperate for money and didn't ask many questions. The place was called Shady Hill Service, but most locals just called it the Grave Stop. Not because of the cemetery nearby, but because no one stayed employed there for long. The owners were two elderly siblings, Martha and Carl Kettler. They inherited the station after their father died in the 80s. Neither had any kids. They barely talked, but they always showed up every Thursday at exactly 3:33 a.m. to do paperwork in the back office. Never missed it. I only saw them in person twice. Their eyes never quite lined up with mine, like they were looking through me instead of at me. I should have quit the first night, but the job paid cash, and I was broke. Things started small. The station had 2 cameras, one over the counter, one outside over the pumps. Every night, around 2:45 a.m., the outside feed would flicker, then freeze. Just long enough for me to see something blurry standing between pumps 3 and 4. Tall, slender, but twisted like it didn't know how to hold its shape. When the footage unfroze, it was gone. Every time. I asked the morning manager, Dave, about it once. He just said, "Don't look too long." That was all he ever said about anything weird. About 3 weeks in, I started noticing the customer log. It was a handwritten notebook we were supposed to update every shift. Names, time of visit, license plate if we could catch it. Just something for insurance purposes, allegedly. Except the log had names I didn't recognize. Dozens of them. Written in different handwriting, different ink. And next to each one, a time. Always 3:33 a.m. Same as the Kettlers' visits. I flipped to the back. A final page, torn halfway down the middle, had just one line written in bold black marker. They never leave. I put the book away and didn't touch it again. Then came the smell. Like rotting flowers and gasoline. It would seep out from the stockroom around 3 a.m. sharp. And with it, flies. They weren't regular flies. Big, slow, with red eyes and legs that clicked against the linoleum. I sprayed. I cleaned. Nothing worked. One night, I taped the door shut. At 3:01 a.m., the tape peeled off on its own, slowly, and the smell came back. But the worst night, that was the last night. Thursday. The Kettlers arrived, as always, exactly at 3:33 a.m., but this time they didn't go to the office. They came to the front counter, and they smiled. Their teeth were black. Not stained, rotted. Every single one. "New log needs a signature," Carl said, sliding the book across the counter, but it was empty. Every page, blank. Martha leaned in. "You're doing a fine job, dear," she said. "Much better than the last one." "What happened to the last guy?" I asked. Carl just chuckled. "We put him out back." I laughed nervously. They didn't. I waited until they disappeared into the office. Then I went out back. There was a shed behind the pumps, rusted, padlocked, but the lock was broken, snapped clean in half like someone had bitten through it. Inside, just dirt, fresh dirt, disturbed soil in the shape of a shallow trench, and something sticking out of it. I brushed it off. It was a name tag, cracked, faded. Same as the one I wore, but the name was different. Mason. the last employee. I backed out, heart racing, and nearly ran into Carl standing behind me. "You're not supposed to be back here," he said. His eyes weren't right. One was glass. The other was moving, independently. I pushed past him and ran inside, called the cops. They never showed, not even after 4 a.m. The line went dead. When I looked back at the security feed, the cop car was already at the pump. But the officer wasn't inside. Just the car door open. Lights flashing, driver's seat empty. I turned to leave and found the Kettlers standing in the doorway. "You should sign the log now," Martha said. Her voice was hollow, like a tape played backward. They stepped aside, revealing the log now open on the counter, and written inside, in my handwriting. 3:33 a.m. Dylan, final shift. I didn't write that. I bolted. Didn't grab my stuff, didn't look back. I quit that night and never went back. A week later, the station burned down. Electrical fire, they said. The Kettlers died in the blaze. Except 3 days after the fire, I passed by the lot and saw a new open sign glowing through the smoke, and someone standing at pump 4, just waiting. If you're ever offered a job that pays a little too well, a little too quietly, especially at a gas station with a bad history, don't take it. Because some places don't want workers. They want witnesses. And if you see your name in a book you never signed, it's too late. This happened last fall. I bike a lot, mostly for exercise, sometimes just to clear my head. I live in a city where you can get around without a car, and I've gotten used to riding late, especially when the streets are empty and the air's cooler. That night, I went farther than usual. I was about 10 miles from my apartment when I hit a pothole hard enough that my front wheel jolted and I went flying. I didn't break anything, but I landed bad on my side, and pain shot up my shoulder like fire. I pushed my bike to the sidewalk, trying to catch my breath. There wasn't anyone around, just this long, empty road in a quiet industrial part of the city, where everything closed by sundown. I figured I'd stop somewhere and grab some over-the-counter painkillers. I spotted a gas station about half a block up, one of those old ones with flickering lights and dirty windows. No cars in the lot, no music at the pumps, but the open sign buzzed red in the window. I wheeled my bike over and leaned it against the wall. That was mistake number 1. Inside, it looked like any rundown corner store. Dim yellow lights, dusty shelves, one rotating fan pushing stale air. The guy at the counter didn't say anything when I walked in, just stared at me like I'd interrupted something. He was thin, pale, had stringy black hair that hung over his eyes. His name tag just said, "Staff." Nothing else. I nodded politely and walked toward the pharmacy aisle. The second guy, who I hadn't noticed before, stood at the back of the store by the coolers. Just stood there. Not shopping, not stocking, just watching. The whole place felt off, but I needed ibuprofen. I grabbed a pack, tossed in a water, and walked to the counter. "Rough night?" the cashier asked. His voice was low, raspy. He didn't blink. "Wiped out on the street," I said, trying to smile. He stared a little too long, then said, "You're lucky you came in before closing." I glanced at the clock on the wall. 2:33 a.m. That was the last thing I remember making sense. I tapped my card. The machine glitched, screen blinking white for a second, then processed. "No receipt," he said flatly, though I hadn't asked. I turned to leave, and the back door, the one marked employees only, slammed open. I jumped. The guy who'd been near the coolers was gone. The cashier was gone. The whole store was suddenly dead quiet. No fans, no hum of lights, just silence so thick I could hear the blood in my ears. I pushed the front door, locked. It had no latch, no sign, just wouldn't move. I looked behind me, and the layout of the store had changed. Shelves gone, aisles stretched farther than they should. The coolers now flickered with static like broken TVs. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" Silence. Then, a whisper. "Aisle 13. There weren't 13 aisles. There had only been 4. But when I turned, there it was, a new aisle, long and narrow, the lights above it dimming in sequence as if inviting me forward. I don't know why I walked down it. Curiosity, panic, maybe something else. The shelves were empty. Just mirrors lining the sides. Old dusty mirrors, too tall, too narrow, like they were meant to frame something too thin to be human. I looked at my reflection. It was off. Not the wrong face, just wrong expression. I was scared, but the reflection was smiling. Grinning wide, teeth clenched, eyes open too wide. I turned back toward the main store, but now it was gone. Just rows of mirrors stretching endlessly. Then I saw a movement behind one of the reflections. Not mine. Someone else. A figure. Tall, stretched, bones too long for its skin. It had no face. Just an open wound where the mouth should be. And it was grinning. I ran. Down the aisle, past the mirrors, past my own screaming reflection, until the door appeared again. The gas station, just as I'd left it. I bolted through. The cashier was back. So was the guy near the cooler. No reaction. Like I'd never left. I grabbed my bike and pedaled like hell, pain shooting through my shoulder the whole way home. The next morning, I checked my phone. No transaction. No charge from the store. I went back that afternoon, on foot. There was no gas station, just an empty lot. Weeds, cracked pavement, no building, no pumps, no lights, like it had never existed. But when I got home that night, the receipt was sitting on my desk. Wrinkled, yellowed. Timestamp, 2:33 a.m. location. Station 13. At the bottom, scrawled in handwriting, "Thanks for shopping with us. Come back alone." If you ever find yourself biking late and you see a gas station that doesn't belong there, don't stop. Not even for water. Not even for painkillers. Because some places don't sell anything. They just want you. And once you enter aisle 13, you leave something behind, even if you don't remember what it was. My girlfriend and I were on our way to visit my parents out in rural Kentucky. It was late, around 1:30 in the morning, and the only reason we were even driving that late was because we both worked late shifts and figured we'd get ahead of traffic. The stretch of interstate we were on was long and empty, winding through dense forest with barely any lights. We'd been running low on gas for the past 20 miles, and just when I thought we'd have to pull over and sleep in the car, we spotted a sign. Next, gas, 1 mile. Open, 24 hours. No brand, no logo, just white letters on black metal. We turned off onto an unmarked road and found the place maybe 5 minutes later. It looked wrong. It was an old, run-down station with a single row of pumps and a flickering neon open sign in the window. No cars in the lot, no lights in the forest behind it. Just the building, the pumps, and the dark stretching in every direction. We should have kept driving, but we didn't. I pulled up to pump 6, the only one that wasn't taped off with yellow caution ribbon. No music, no night shift radio, just the wind. My girlfriend Kayla stayed in the car while I walked inside to pay. The bell above the door didn't ring. No cashier behind the counter. The inside smelled like old meat and gasoline. The floor was covered in grime, and the walls had these strange streaks, dark smears, like someone had wiped greasy hands over and over. I waited at the counter. Nothing. Then I saw the mirror behind the register, and something was standing in the reflection. But when I turned around, no one was there. I left a 20 on the counter and walked back out to pump the gas. Kayla was still in the car, scrolling on her phone, but when I looked at her face, it was pale, frozen. She slowly raised a hand and pointed behind me. I turned. The station door was swinging open and shut. No wind, no sound, just creaking. Back and forth, back and forth. Then it stopped and closed. Hard. Kayla whispered through the cracked window. Someone was just standing there watching you. We didn't even wait for the full tank. I pulled the nozzle, got back in, and we peeled out onto the road. Only, the road wasn't the same. We drove for 30 minutes without seeing another sign. No exits, no street lights, no traffic. It was like we'd driven straight into somewhere else. The GPS was frozen, just a spinning wheel. Kayla tried to call her dad. No bars, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. And then the lights ahead. We both sighed in relief. The exact same gas station appeared around the bend. Same pumps, same flickering sign, same missing brand. And again, only pump 6 was working. I slowed to a crawl. Kayla muttered, "No. No way." We drove past without stopping this time. 10 minutes later, same station. I swear to God, it was like we were on a loop. We tried turning around, U-turn, full 180. Didn't matter. After another few minutes of driving, there it was again. This time, the caution tape was gone from all the other pumps. But pump 6, it was missing. Just a jagged pipe sticking out of the concrete where it used to be. Kayla screamed. In the rearview mirror, someone was standing where the pump had been. I hit the gas. We saw the lights again maybe 20 minutes later. But this time, the station looked newer. Renovated. Cleaner. There were people inside. A young guy behind the counter. Bright fluorescent lights. We pulled in, desperate, and ran inside. The guy behind the counter blinked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." We told him everything. He just nodded slowly and said, "Yeah, we hear stories like that sometimes. Not many folks come back after pump 6. I asked what he meant. He pulled out a worn photo from under the counter. It showed the station. Old. Rotten. Just like we'd seen it. With 6 pumps. There were figures around pump 6. Fuzzy, distorted, almost humanoid, but stretched. That pump's been gone for years, he said. After what happened back in '92. No one uses that lot now. I looked out the window, and Kayla was gone. Just gone. The passenger door still open. No footprints. No sound. The guy behind the counter just stared at me. His reflection in the glass wasn't staring the same direction. If you ever see a gas station with no name, with a single working pump, with no one else in sight, don't stop. Don't get out. And whatever you do, never use pump 6, because you might leave with a full tank, but you won't leave with everything. Some roads don't want you back.